Hi, everybody. My name is Juan. I'm the brand strategist here at TimeXtender, and today I'm going to interview Ted Clark from Adventag. I hope I said that properly because I've been rehearsing like
Yep.
10 minutes now. So, Ted, thank you very much for being with us today. If you
Great to
don't
be here.
mind just introducing yourself a little bit, and then I'll ask you a couple of questions just to know a little bit more about your background, if that's all right.
Sure. Yeah. My name's Ted Clark. I'm based in Seattle, Washington. And I've kind of been a bona fide data guy for the last, I don't know, 15, 17 years. And have kind of been doing, started Adventag about, I guess, 14 years ago now,
Mm-hmm.
really focusing on data analytics and kind of putting data in people's hands so they can do things they didn't imagine with it. Yeah.
That's amazing. You said that you are based in Seattle.
Sorry.
So are you originally from Seattle as well?
I'm not. I'm from the East Coast, around the New York
Okay.
area,
All
in the
right.
U.S. Yeah.
Okay. And so tell me a little bit more about, because I'm always interested in knowing how people ended up in the data industry space, and it's so diverse and it's so interesting. So can you tell me more or less how did you ended up here? How did you ended up founding Adventag and, working with data on a regular basis? You say 14 years, which is a long time.
Sure. So I've always been a math and science guy, and that kind of led me when going to college to go into engineering. And I ended up in one of the tactical engineering programs that was very typecast. I was a chemical engineer by trade, and
Mm-hmm.
about 3 years into it, I go, "Wow, I
Mm-mm.
don't want to watch water run through pipes." Um, there's still a behind the scenes that says, "Hey, maybe one day I'll start a brewery because that's chemical engineering in its raw form." But 3 years in, I said, this isn't for me. I gotta figure out what I really want to do. So I ended up going the more computer science route, and ended up just by chance doing a data analytics project about 3 years out of school. And I said, "Yep, this is for me. This is what really everybody has data and everybody wants to understand it. And that doesn't always happen. So that's what I want to go figure out. And I don't think I've done a non data centric project since the early 2000s. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And that's visionary. I mean, if you ask me 18 years ago, seeing that through, that's important.
That's awesome.
Uh,
Yeah.
so obviously you have a lot of knowledge, a wealth of knowledge, I would call it, in terms of data. You've been in every possible area. So throughout the years, what kind of technologies have excited you the most? And I know about one, of course, but if you can
Sure.
mention the different technologies that you work with and which things that you are seeing right now are interesting to you.
Yeah. So I think when you have data and you get it from all the different places, so you think all the different places that data is stored today, and where it used to be stored. So today you have everything from Amazon collecting data, data's in Salesforce, data's in all these big companies' platforms, and it's all over the place. And it's a matter of saying, hey, look, it's all over the place, and nobody talks to each other. So
Right.
I know the technology you're talking about, but aside from that, the whole point of organizing that data and getting it into a single place and kind of going through the pain of getting data into a single place is so you can see something coming out the other end. So being able to do that and being able to do that fast, I'm always fascinated by all the different visualization tools that are out there. And some of them are super intricate and get really into we have the details and we can show 2 million points in a single view. That fascinates me from a technological perspective, but really I feel like that's a dog chasing laser kind of moment. Because you look at all these cool visuals and you think of all the things that go into them, but really when it comes down to it, you just need to know, are the things that you're doing day in and day out, week in and week out, month in and month out, are they moving the needle in the right direction?
Right.
And I don't think that takes necessarily the most intricate reporting tool. I really do think it's a matter of organizing the data, and that's kind of where I tend to track to. It's like, hey, if we get our stuff organized and we can make a 90% swath at how this looks, and we know the general direction, that's the big value add. So I really like those technologies that tend to help you get organized, and be repeatable, so you can see trends moving, not necessarily the pretty picture at the other end.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about Adventag actually, and your philosophy. We were talking a little bit before we hit recording actually, and you mentioned that many of the clients that you are actually serving and helping come through referrals, which is super interesting, because that means that the previous customer has been super pleased with your work, of course. So
sure.
How do you approach your market? How do you approach the different projects that come forward for Adventag?
Sure. So I think generally when I come in to a project, I'm saying, hey, look, you've gotten to the point as a customer to say, I can't do this myself. So that's the first thing. And generally in this day and age, with all the information you can read and come up, clients typically have come up with lots of ideas, and they even have gotten way ahead of where I would have wanted them to get. They're like, they got a list of 10 things. Hey, can you go do these 10 things? And this is contrarian, but I have to say no. I can't do those 10 things, because that will send you down a rat hole that you don't want to be in, and you get some funny looks. But really, when I go work with a client, I want to tell them, look, you have 10 things. I'm only going to commit to doing 2 or 3 of them. So we need to pick the 2 or 3 most important, because my bet is once we do those 2 or 3, your 4 through 10 is going to completely change. So first off, we're not going to waste money on 4 through 10. So right away, we're gonna save it. Like, yes, we could go chalk up something that says, here's what we're gonna do and here's what it's gonna cost. But the benefit, you're gonna get 90% of the benefit out of 1, 2, and 3, some combination there. So let's go do that and agree that we're gonna learn from our working together on how we're gonna go forward after that. Just, if you're not taking a learning basis to your data, that's what's going to make you successful, me successful helping, and really, you're going to get different data in 3 months, in a year's time. We need to have a factor that can kind of now cycle through and keep changing the way we're doing it. That's kind of, that's the focus of saying, hey, we're not just here to build a system to check a box. We're here to build a system to make sure the system runs somewhat better the next time. Yeah.
Well, that's a nice quote.
Cool.
All right. And so obviously you face the customer, you say yes or no, depending on, their approach, and you try to basically create something that it has a long lasting effect. That's my perception of what you just said. And then, so on that note, what are the 3 topics or the 3 issues that you see coming up over and over again when you visit a client? If there are any trends, actually, I'm not sure, but I would imagine there are some.
Yeah, and I think 2 really come to mind right away, and they kind of have nothing to do with building an intricate ETL data moving system. The first one that I normally come at is really with the end in mind, right? It's like, if I could magically tell you what this number you're chasing after is, and I think before I said 30%, hey, if I told you that the thing you're asking for, the answer is 30% or 400 million, if I told you that answer definitively, that's your number, I ask the question, what would you do differently? And if they look at me and go, well, if we hit 30%, then I would do X, Y, and Z, I know we're headed in the right direction. If they go, well, that would be nice to know, I go, well, then we're not going to waste time calculating that number because you don't care really. Right? So and when you look at that and you say, if you don't have an action or a plan in mind that you're going to go take, by us doing all of this data munging can get expensive work, I can't rationalize having you invest in that. I can certainly do it because you think consultant nature, well, I'll get paid, but that's not the long term for you. You have to have, you want to create something that when you and your team look at it, you're going to do either you're going to scale what's working, or you're going to stop it or do something different. And if you can't articulate that change, that becomes one of the 4 through 10 that I go, okay, that's not high enough priority to go work. So one is have that end in mind and actually intend to do something with the information. And then the first, which kind of goes to the complete opposite, a lot of people will come in and say, we have all this data. And more we go, okay, well, we have this, one of the case in point ones is we have this census data, so like counts of populations. And they go, well, it's out there, you could just go get it. And I go, when you have open data, there are 17 versions of everything. There's not a definitive, hey, here is the list of exactly what you need. So the first step that I have on a technical engagement with people is I say, hey, look, we need to focus on acquiring our data. It could be in any format, but it has to be, when I go look at a chunk of it, I have to be able to tell what the heck it is. Like, it can't be, it's not a full data set if you have a bunch of numbers that refer to other setups of data. If I can't go, oh, that means you did that 5 times that month, then that's not a data set. If it isn't complete and somewhat coherent, we need to get it coherent so we can all actively do it. I think of case in point of something I did a year ago. Someone just sent me a bunch of links. I said, okay, I clicked on the first one, download one of 20 different links from there. I go, no. we can't say we've done the job, throwing it over the fence. We need to actually say, okay, here's what we want. Here's the repeatability of it. Getting people on a ground of, okay, we're going to hold this data source accountable and now actually be able to use it again and again as it updates and things like that. That's, a lot of people just say, oh, that's just their job. And anytime you do that, you're setting yourself to be disappointed. So intentionally making sure that there's plenty of places to get disappointed in this, but that's an easy one to say, hey, look, if we have these basic rules of here is what a quantified data set is, then we take a lot of the risk and the churn out of actually doing something productive. Yeah. So
amazing.
Those 2 main things. Yeah.
Okay. So as you have mentioned that these 2 specific topics, so say that you have granted these 2 topics and you can proceed, right? In that regard, what type of projects that you have worked on or you could work in are interesting to you? So is there any particular case that you would like to tackle in the near time future? And it doesn't matter if it's beyond your current scope or not, but it's something that really attracts you, that you would like to get that data set and say, I'm going to smash this and I'm going to put it in a magic dashboard and it's going to make a lot of sense and a lot of impact.
Well, it really relies on the first thing I was saying, where it needs to dictate that people will do something different at the end. And to do that, you're really coming in and saying, hey, look, data about revenue numbers is great, right? But what drives those revenue numbers is either luck or previous connections. So really getting into the next level down of what's driving those connections and making them happen. So really when you can kind of look at a piece of data and say, hey, look, this is because some behaviors are going on and we can start to see those behaviors in the data. And I take a case in point of something I worked on where we were monitoring a whole bunch of projects going on for a large company. And you see how people are putting their time toward it. And they would measure the number of days a week that people would put toward the project. And one of the things you can kind of go see is, okay, the people that are stretched across multiple things, like they put 2 days here and 3 days here in a given week, those projects tend to take one trajectory. The projects where you have 5 days, sometimes 6, because they're good. There's an element where I'll go and dream up a metric we need to have a focus factor metric where we can say, look, if we detect that the people doing this work are focused, the project has a more likely outcome of success, right? Whereas if you have people just dabbling in, they'll work on it at maybe a Monday and a Thursday, you detect that pattern of how's the focus toward this work not so great. You can start to say, hey, look, we need to make an overall initiative to get people not completely sidetracked, as hard as that is with, 5 different windows open on your laptop and your phone and all that. If we can do something to kind of streamline people's focus, what impact does that have on the work that we produce? Well, okay, now we have the human factor of is their phone dinging, or like all that stuff, and you hear about all these things where, companies are watching how long it takes you to reply to an email and all those things. Those kind of go that direction. But in all this data that we collect, whether really simple, like a couple hundred records of data, or millions and millions of records, you can kind of start to see these patterns of what's going on. Right.
Amazing. All right. Yeah, you get me thinking, how fast do I reply to an email? You made me think.
It's just like, if you look at it beyond the technical numbers, like we very quickly get into, do the totals match to the penny?
Right.
Well, okay. No, but who cares? And I think back to something, because I do this all the time. I worked with a train system in Seattle where they were measuring how on time the trains were. And they had a rule that said, okay, a train is on time if it gets to its scheduled stop plus or minus 3 minutes, right? And we actually went in and said, hey, so what's good on-time performance? And they said 98%. And I go, okay, you want to be at 98%? That's not easy. Like, that's hard. And we calculated it after the first month of service as it came up, and I think it came out to something like 62%.
Oh my God, yeah, there's a big difference.
That's less than 2 out of 3 trains get to there on time.
Right.
What's going on? So we actually went in and looked, and we found, well, the trains that they run on time once they get started. But they routinely just start flat out late. And they only do that in one direction. And what we ultimately found was the cause of this was that on one end of the train line, there was a bathroom break and a smoking spot. And the only reason all these trains were late was because the average train started its run 5-7 minutes late from the get-go, because that's when they got to the bathroom and take a smoke break. Right. And the fix was, hey, we see this. You literally didn't even have to watch. We just had to say, mind your smoke and bathroom breaks, because we got to start on time. Problem fixed. Like, the problem wasn't technical. The problem wasn't the lights aren't working. It was, hey, just remember, you got to get the trains going. Yeah. And so always these things are like, oh,
that's a great
how do we measure like human nature to go make sure it's actually doing the right thing for all of our best interests. So yeah.
It's a great story. Thank you. And you made me think of first principles, actually, asking why 5 times. So why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Just like a kid, a kid will do that anyway. So
I know. They learn that word when they're 3 or something.
Exactly.
Like, oh no, I wish they didn't learn it. But
they are all data scientists.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let me move on a little bit. So obviously you've been working with TimeXtender. I think you did a little bit of consulting work for TimeXtender per se. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And I would imagine that after that, there was a transition to add it to your portfolio as a partner, so to say. So can you tell me about the story as to how you became a partner? That I would like to hear that actually.
Yeah, sure. So back in, I think, 2014, I think I did a stint of working with TimeXtender and trying to sell it, because at the time, before I even was introduced to the tool, a month after I learned about it and kind of saw how it worked, I said, yeah, I'll sign up for this. I want to go join this. This is really, really interesting. And I did that, and I said, this is a way to look forward in fixing the proverbial problem of wanting to always do the right thing from a coding perspective, but always having the crunch of time. So how do you get rid of that time to do the right thing of setting, there's a 10-step architecture that you want to do literally 100 times on any given project, but there's not enough hours in the day to go do that. So how do we, and this tool kind of jumped out at me and saying, this is taking this repetitive headache off my back. It lets me see that piece. So that's what drew me to it initially, in saying, this is a forward-looking thing of fixing the way data gets drawn in repeatedly. So that was why I joined it. And then at the end of the day, I just said, I really like going out and doing work with individual customers to kind of say, hey, what are you doing here? And that was more than just a technical solution. So my own nature kind of said, hey, look, I have this technical thing in my pocket and it's great. So great that, yes, I want to partner and be a reseller of this, because even if I can't convince a customer to say, let's go use this, I'll say, well, it makes me 5 times more effective, so I'm going to pay for it. Use it. Honestly, it's like, why wouldn't I magnify my ability to go deliver something with integrity so I don't have to worry about it overnight? I want to do this. So there's kind of a double take in doing that. It's like, I want to use this because it makes my life as a delivery person better, and it makes a customer, able to have more reliability and do things. So I frequently meet in the middle with that, in terms of how we do that, but it's been good. Yeah.
Amazing. So you talked about the kind of the technical aspect of TimeXtender from a partnership perspective. You probably met a number of people in the TimeXtender organization, and I just wanted to ask, what is the best part of the partnership program, if you remove the tech from the equation, right? So what will be your favorite part from the partner program?
From the partner program, it's really, they look and know that the tool that they want to put out there is going to have an impact on an entire ecosystem. And where it's good is they know that the ecosystem of data within a company or a small business or whatever is going to evolve over time. So they go in and they say, hey, look, we know this. They're not leaving a partner out to dry. They're saying, look, this partner has to own this customer, and they let them own the customer. Whereas there are other partnerships where you're just a partner because you're a name on a piece of paper somewhere, right? Here it's, no, you're a partner of this customer because you have the relationship with them, and TimeXtender from the orange software, that orange software is going to support however it can do it in support of that, end customer. So really the partnership program, it should be called the customer support program with people that can actually, like, there's no way that, like, I don't think TimeXtender wants to be involved in all these intricate little businesses and how they do all their different things. They need a fleet of partners to go say, hey, this industry or this geography really, really well. They really allow you to, get to those details fast and then support the customers where they need to be. So it's certainly more than a sheet of paper or a logo that gets tossed on a website. It's like, hey, this is supported by, knowing that the customer best as a partner to the customer. Yeah.
Thank you for that. It's music to my ears, I have to say.
Oh, good. I mean, I've been describing, it's like, hey, it's not all technical.
Right.
Some of it is, no, you need to be focused here. You need to have a plan and go implement it here. But the data pipeline in the middle, hey, we can specifically help there. But you got to be able to onboard it. You got to be able to act on it and then iterate through it. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. I'm going to ask you a couple of more questions and we can wrap it up. But the one question that I have actually is for you, for Adventag, what do you have after 2 years that I will assume have been complicated, and we have chat a little bit beforehand about it. What do you envision this year to happen in terms of your company? What is your roadmap, if you like? What would you like to accomplish? I know it's too many questions at the same time, but it's the same question.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think, the last 2 years have been completely different. The biggest difference being you very rarely get in a room with someone, right? And that's one of the pieces that has been the biggest change, because it actually slows down the progress that you can make, not because you're going slower by developing slower or anything, but you really have a hard sense of detecting what people really think about data, right? So the data is all encompassing. You can't really hide anything these days. Like, you go look at some company systems and you go, well, this was a bad month. Here was a weather event that happened. Here's all these different things, and you can kind of creep them out by, oh wow, you saw that happen. Oh, this was a Christmas holiday. You didn't do any work there. You can do all that, but what you can't see is, did they expect that as clearly? Like, it's hard to get it screen to screen. Sometimes the screens aren't even on. So my goal is to get people to realize that we need to get the data out in the forefront, but then we also need to realize the data doesn't show everything. We kind of have to be able to picture how we really want to take the data to the next step. Like, it can measure lots of things, but unless you kind of know how that data is making people feel, am I gonna, a lot of the time is this going to get someone in their boss's good graces by the numbers that we're showing? They may show that, they may not, but it's there. Whether you see it or not, you have to recognize it's there. And I'm trying to go and say, hey, look, we want to have new ways of working where we can get that happening, and we cycle on things that we can go change. So that's
amazing.
That's the goal, is we kind of get back to in-person stuff.
I wish you all the best on that journey, actually, and we'll be here to help you in whatever format shape we can.
Awesome.
I do have a last question, and this is a personal question, and it's a controversial question in the sense that it puts people in shock when I ask.
Oh boy, you didn't
they
warn
have
me of this one.
they have to, no, I did not know. You have to think for probably 30 seconds or something. So, but the question is, if you had all the money in the world, all the power in the world, all the data in the world, what would you do?
What would I do? I think so. If you had all the power and the money and the data, you could infinitely go look at what all the results of everything was. Yep. It would be much, and you would inevitably find huge wins on the different spectrums. The challenge would still be, and I don't think with all the power, the money, and the data in the world, you could even do this, but you could get better at it. It would be to heighten the awareness that things are inevitably going to move apart from each other, right? If you look at it from a business perspective, if your business does 5 things, inevitably 2 or 3 of those are going to be the wins and the others are going to dwindle. And really just put out there, hey, we need to highlight the fact that in the world, not everything is going to move along at the same pace. And whether that's right or fair or not, we have to use the data to actually make it fair. And with that power, it would be to say, hey, look, we need to make it, the goal is fairness, equity in how we use it, not to magnify the mountain, for lack of a better term. It's, we need to level the playing field out in terms of how the results are measured. Because if person X makes 100 and person Y makes 1, well, if you just let that go, 100 is going to become 300 and 1's going to become half. It's going to keep accentuating it. So we really just need to say, hey, we need to decide what the initiatives are to go take that data and apply fairness. There's never a straight answer for what fair is, but with, like your question, with infinite power and data and money, you can at least lay out what that fairness could be. So I would say taking that forward, because there's misconstrued stories constantly, mostly because we decide to ignore half the data. So if we don't ignore half the data, things become a lot more fair, I think.
That sounds about right. Thank you so much, Ted. That was
awesome.
An excellent answer. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. It's been a super fun interview. To the viewers, as usual, this is We Are Data, sponsored by TimeXtender or hosted by TimeXtender. So subscribe to the channel if you want to. I'm not a YouTuber, so I don't know exactly where the button is. I don't care. The important thing is to talk to partners and intelligent people from which I learn a lot. Thank you so much, Ted. Have a great evening.
Awesome. Thanks a bunch.
Bye-bye.
Later.